This video is for educational purposes only. I'm not responsible for misuse. Bleach and high volume developer can cause serious injury.
These are my 2-inch dark roots, and this is the soft beige blonde I'm trying to recreate. If you want to go from this to this without destroying your hair, don't click off. Hi, I'm Marie, and I'm bleaching and toning my hair for over a decade now. And it took me hundreds of tries to bleach and tone my hair without destroying them and to get, in the end, the most beautiful soft beige blonde. And today I'm going to give you the exact technique that finally works. I'm a natural level 6, and in case you're not sure what level your hair is, it's super simple to check. You can check it out right here. It goes from 2 to 10, which is the lightest blonde. And you can see my natural hair is pretty dark, which is a level 6. I'm trying to go to level 10, which means I have to lift 4 full levels. Divide your hair into 4 sections and get everything ready before you mix your bleach. Because once you start mixing it, it will start processing. One tip is not to wash your hair 2 or 3 days because the natural oils will protect your scalp. So let's get right into it, change your clothes, and get everything ready.
You need one mirror in the front and one behind so you can actually see what you do in the back of your head. I use an extra large from Amazon. I will link it down in the description below, but any other mirror works too.
If you learned something new today, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and if you learned 2 more things by the end of the video, please consider subscribing because I love making this content for you on my channel. And this is just one way to support my content.
30 volume developer is a strong chemical and can cause burns or permanent damage if used incorrectly. This is not for beginners. If you're unsure, do not attempt this at home. I'm using Redken Flash Lift bleach powder, but any professional brand works. I start with 2 scoops of bleach and 4 scoops of 30 volume developer. If it's not creamy enough, I'll add another scoop. You want it creamy, not runny. And mixing ratios vary by brand. I always add Olaplex because skipping this step would seriously damage my hair. I start in the back and I take very thin sections. This step is very important because if your sections are too thick, you can end up with dark orange or yellow spots in your hair later on. So make sure you separate very thin and you fully saturate your dark roots with the bleach. My roots are about 2 inches long, so I'm using foils to keep everything controlled and to prevent the bleach from overlapping. But before I apply the bleach, I add a treatment right where the blonde starts to block it from touching the already lightened hair. I'm doing this because bleach can expand while it's processing, and if your bleach overlaps into the previously bleached hair, this is where some serious damage or breakage can happen. I apply the bleach onto my dark roots and avoid the scalp at first because the scalp gives off heat. That extra heat makes the bleach process faster on the skin, which can cause the roots to lift lighter and faster than the rest. So that uneven, overly bright result is what we call hard roots, and that's what we want to avoid. In the beginning, I showed you the end result, and you saw a bright beige blonde. And if you want to achieve that exact bright beige blonde, you have to lift up to a level 10. So if your hair is only at a level 7, 8, or let's say 9, there is still too much yellow and orange underneath, and you will not get the same result. You can think of it as a canvas. When you paint the white canvas, the color shows exactly as it is. But if your canvas is yellow or orange, the color will always look different. This is why it's very important that you lift up to a level 10. Now that the back is done, I move on to the front and I do the exact same thing. Make sure your sections are very thin. If you notice your sections are too thick, you can still flip the foil and apply more bleach underneath. And I will show you an example later on. Here I'm flipping the foil and applying more bleach underneath to make sure everything is fully saturated. I did this because I knew my section was too thick and the bleach was not fully saturated. This step is very important if you want to avoid dark orange or uneven spots, because you will see them later when you wash out all the bleach. I let that process for about 20 to 30 minutes. How long it takes, that really depends on how many levels you need to lift, and it can vary case by case. For me, it usually takes 20 to 30 minutes. I know it's time to apply the bleach to the scalp. When I open the foils and the roots look like the outside of a banana, that yellow stage, that's when I go and apply the bleach directly to the scalp so everything lifts evenly. The end goal is for our roots to look like the inside of a banana. So once we hit that pale yellow, it's time to wash the bleach off. After the bleach is rinsed, I apply Olaplex number 2. Don't mix that with water and let it process for 10 to 20 minutes. Rinse it out right after. For my toner, I use Redken shades 10VV, 10N, 10VG, and 10P. The first 3 shades, I'll mix 6 parts each, and then I add 1 part of 10VG and 1 part of 10P. You don't have to use the exact 1 ounce, 1.17 ounce. If you need more or less color, you can just calculate it 6 to 1 parts. Once all my toner is mixed using the 6 to 1 parts, I add processing solution. The ratio is 1 to 1, so whatever amount of color you have, you add the same amount of processing solution. Sometimes I add a little bit more. At the end, I add a small amount of crystal clear. This part is optional, but I love it because it gives a lot of shine. Make sure your hair is completely dry. I section it into 4 parts because it makes the application easier. I apply the toner to the roots first and then let that sit for 10 to 15 minutes. You can keep checking on the color, and then later on I apply the toner to the rest of the hair. After you let the roots process, you have to apply the toner to the rest of the hair. You have to make sure everything is fully saturated and that you use enough toner. You can gently comb it through, but you have to be very careful because your hair is very fragile after bleaching, especially when it's wet. So once everything is done, I'll let that process for another 10 to 15 minutes, but you have to check on your color and see how dark it is. You can check that very easily. You can wipe the toner to the side and you can see what shade is underneath. After rinsing, apply a treatment right away and leave it in for 5 to 10 minutes. So if you want your blonde to shine, you absolutely have to use a treatment. Bleaching removes moisture and proteins out of your hair and makes it very fragile. So a good treatment helps bring you back that strength and the shine. The one I'm using is Redken Frizz Dismiss, and I'll link it down in the description below in case you want to check it out. I use a wet brush to detangle my hair every day. So you want to make sure you be very gentle, no pulling and no stretching, especially after bleaching and when your hair is wet, because this is where the most breakage can happen if you're too rough. So take care of your hair and I will thank you. Alright guys, there you have it. This is the final result. I went from dark roots and a brassy blonde to a soft, beautiful beige blonde. My hair feels healthy, there's no breakage, and it honestly feels like I just walked out of the salon. I really hope this video helped you and that you can use some of the tips for your own hair journey. If you made it this far, please give this video a like and consider subscribing so I can keep making this kind of content for you. I love you guys so much and I'll see you next time.